Okay, I am going to call to order our Tuesday, October 14th, 2025, regular meeting of the school board at 5:01 p.m. Ms. Marsan, would you please take the roll call?
Yes, Mrs. Bell?
Here.
Mrs. Hancock?
Here.
Mr. Kuchert is absent for this portion of the meeting. Mr. Lackner?
Here.
Mrs. McCabe?
Here.
Dr. Rich?
Here.
Mrs. Fairgrave?
Here, please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Okay, and with that, may I have a motion to move to closed session for the purpose of security procedures, school building safety and security, and the use of personnel and equipment to respond to an actual, a threatened, or a reasonably potential danger to the safety of employees, students, staff, the public, or public property.
So moved.
Thank you, Mrs. Bell. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Lackner. Ms. Marsan, would you please take the roll call vote?
Mrs. Hancock?
Yes.
Mr. Lackner?
Yes.
Mrs. McCabe?
Yes.
Dr. Rich?
Yes.
Mrs. Bell?
Yes.
Mrs. Fairgrave?
Yes, motion passes 6-0. We will adjourn to closed session at 5:02 p.m. Thank you. I would like to call back into open session our Tuesday, October 14th, 2025 regular meeting of the school board. As we reconvene at 6:01 p.m., Ms. Marsan, would you please take the roll call vote?
Yes, Mrs. Bell?
Here.
Mrs. Hancock?
Here.
Mr. Kuschert?
Here.
Mr. Lackner?
Here.
Mrs. McCabe?
Here.
Dr. Rich?
Here.
Mrs. Fairgrave?
Here. Okay, I would like to make one slight adjustment to the agenda. We do have a fair amount of recognition, which is fantastic, and I would like to do that piece first, just to be considerate of our students that have studies and things like that that they need to do. And then from that, then we'll resume back on our citizen comments. So with that said, Dr. Wardle?
Thank you, Mrs. Fairgrave. I'd love to welcome up our representatives from, I'm looking in the crowd, from east and north. Oh, there we go, there we go. Jim and Becca, if you guys would come up. We're super excited tonight to honor our National Merit semifinalist tonight. And with that, I'll hand it over to you, Jim, to kick us off.
Sure. Thank you and good evening. We are really pleased to be able to celebrate with you guys tonight our National Merit semifinalists, as Dr. Gordon had said. Students qualify for National Merit semifinalist status by taking the National Merit Scholarship Qualifying Test, NMSQT, in the fall of their junior year. And these students can represent some of the top 16,000 or so high school age seniors now in the entire United States. So not only have they demonstrated their ability to do well academically, but they've also had a really outstanding showing on that test that they took in the fall of their junior year. So we are very pleased to invite them up to be able to present them to you guys. We've got Evan Boyle, if you want to come on up, Evan. There you are. Would you like to do one at a time or one? Okay, here's Evan.
Hey, Evan.
Sometimes there's questions.
Yeah, talk to us a little bit about your next steps, your next journey, and where you hope to land.
So I'm hoping to attend college at the University of Illinois Urbana-Champaign for mechanical engineering, and I hope to get a job in mechanical engineering in the defense
Love
industry.
it. Congratulations. Please stay up here while Mr. Richter brings up other students.
Sure. Next we have Raheel Bukhari.
Raheel?
Hello.
Hello. What are your next steps and journeys?
Well, I'm looking towards going to Loyola for pre-medicine.
Love it, love it, love it. Thank you so much.
Next up, we've got Anton Dimitrov.
Anton, what's your next steps and journeys you hope?
I hope to study at Columbia and study finance.
Wow, congratulations.
Next up, we've got Dorothy Hocker.
Hi, Dorothy. What are your next steps?
I would like to study mathematics. I'm not sure where yet. Just
I love
applying
it.
a bunch of places.
Keeping all those doors open to you. Congratulations.
Thank you.
And making her second trip to the school board is Amaya Yamanuru.
Amaya, how are you? What's your next steps?
I'm hoping to do pre-med at Case Western.
Love it, love it. Congratulations.
And then at North High School, we have Christine Zarentik, but I don't believe she is here tonight.
That's okay. We can still clap for her. Students, we are so incredibly proud of each and every one of you for the incredible hard work that you have put forth for this honor. Parents, family members, we too want to thank you and recognize you for all the extremely challenging nights and weekends and all the work and your guidance, your support, your parenting that has resulted in incredible young people that are getting ready to take some pretty incredible next steps in their journey. Students, way to go. Super proud of you. You all are so welcome to stay for the board meeting or go home and study. I'm betting you're going to go home and study. We're pretty exciting, though, too. Thank you all. Have a great night. And Mrs. Fairgrieve will come back for the video and other conversations under the superintendent report. So I'll hand it back to you.
That sounds great. So with that, we will move to citizen comments. And we do have some citizen comments. So I would ask Mrs. McCabe to please read our notice.
During the public comment period, members of the public body who wish to speak are asked to first state their name and the community in which they reside. Each individual will have up to 3 minutes to address the board on a topic of their choosing. Once a speaker has reached the 3-minute limit, a timer will sound and the speaker will be asked to finish their comment. We ask all individuals who address the board to do so with respect and civility toward others. Please note that personnel matters are sensitive and confidential. We also want to inform our speakers that all regular, special, and committee meetings are live streamed and available for viewing at any time on the district's YouTube channel. Personal information to be considered before making a statement that will be recorded and made public. While the board will not respond to today's public comment during this meeting, we are committed to listening to you to help support our work for the district and on behalf of our students, staff, families, and community members.
Thank you, Mrs. McCabe. May I ask Carrie Ann Harry to come forward, please?
My name is Carrie Ann Harry, and I am part of the St. Charles and Fox Ridge community. It's okay if I just read my paper? Okay. It says, my name is Carrie Ann Harry, and I am joining you tonight as a parent of a second grade student at Fox Ridge Elementary. We joined Fox Ridge from Munhall as part of the boundary changes last year. While we were very sad to leave the wonderful community and staff of Munhall, we were extremely excited to be part of the fresh start at Fox Ridge. Our excitement was very short-lived as our experience at Fox Ridge over the past year and a half has been nothing short of disappointing, scary, and to be honest, unsafe. My daughter is playing in the St. Charles East varsity volleyball game versus Batavia tonight in their Dig Pink event, for which my own mother is being honored as a breast cancer survivor, yet I am choosing to miss out on this very special game to be here with you tonight. That is just how important I think the following message is. Over the past month, I have been a part of meetings with Mr. Buxton, Miss Woodring, Miss Griffith, parents, PTO members, teachers, and students. The amount of concerns, fears, disappointments, and calls for help have been extremely alarming and has catapulted Fox Ridge and its community to find itself in a current state of crisis. I could use my time up here tonight to share a plethora of examples that have led not only my own family, but countless other families of Fox Ridge to echo these very same concerns. However, I would instead like to speak on some disturbing details that I feel the Board of Education and district administrators need to be made aware of. There are daily reverse evacuations taking place in classrooms, and while there is certainly a level of understanding regarding these instances taking place, the way in which they are being handled and answered by the Fox Ridge leaders is appalling. I would like this board and administration team to know that when these reverse evacuations are taking place, the 20-plus students who are sitting in the hallways of Fox Ridge are being shuffled into other great appropriate classrooms to finish their current task at hand, most of the time with no books or materials to be used. This means that sometimes 3 to 4 times a day, 50-plus students are suffering by not getting proper instructional time due to not having their teacher, classroom materials, or mental health intact. To know that students are potentially missing 300 minutes of academics per week 100% warrants parents to be in crisis mode. I would also like to make you aware that there have been instances where the above-mentioned situation has taken place and other teacher assistants have been left to watch, teach, or take the remaining students outside to the playground. Concurrent with the above-mentioned situation, teachers who are experiencing reverse evacuations, intense and often physical altercations with students, and heavy parental pushback have gone to building administration and requested a walkie for their classrooms for safety reasons. These requests were denied, leaving the teachers to feel vulnerable and extremely unprotected and unsafe. One teacher in particular had to make 29 calls for help from her classroom, phone or speaker, to building administrators in the month of September, yet was denied a walkie. Some of these occurrences spilled into the hallways or outside of the building and escalated into being an extremely dangerous situation. Thank you.
Go ahead and wrap up, please.
Okay. St. Charles School District prides itself on the theme of together building pathways to excellence. As parents of Fox Ridge find the courage to come forward and stand up against what has been going on inside of their school and to their children, we find ourselves challenging the very theme of this district. How can we possibly be building pathways to excellence when the path at Fox Ridge is completely blocked by chaos, poor leadership, attitude, and toxicity? Representatives from all facets of Fox Ridge have come forward with feedback and calls for help, and while we are met with a listening ear, we are constantly also met with lengthy delays, politically correct responses, and timeframes that feel like an eternity. I would presume if your own children were scared to go to school, you too would feel compelled to step forward and beg the very people who can make a change and provide a more stable environment to do just that. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, I would ask Diane Feisick, my apologies, from Fox Ridge Elementary School.
Hi, I'm Diane Feisick, St. Charles Community from Fox Ridge. Good evening, members of the board. Thank you for your time. I'm here tonight as a concerned parent to speak about an issue that's deeply impacting our students, our teachers, and the quality of education in our schools, and that is how student behavior challenges are currently being handled. I have two sons at Fox Ridge Elementary, one in first grade and one in second. I'm here today because of the deeply concerning experiences my first grader has been facing in his classroom. He tells me they are being evacuated regularly due to another student's behavior. One day, he came home visibly shaken. He described walking back into his classroom to find teachers' rocking chairs flipped over, the lunch cart knocked on his side, and lunches scattered across the floor. He said it was hard to focus, that what he saw made it difficult to get back to his work. On another day, he stepped off the bus looking completely defeated, not his usual self. Later that evening, he told me he was upset from hearing intense screaming in the hallway while sitting in his classroom. That fear stayed with him all day, and he's brought it up multiple times since. In many classrooms, especially at the early elementary level, students and teachers are experiencing frequent evacuations due to aggressive outbursts. These are not occasional disruptions. They're becoming regular occurrences that are directly affecting learning. When a class is repeatedly evacuated or halted due to one student's behavior, it's not just a disruption. It's lost instructional time. Our children are missing valuable opportunities to learn and grow. And more than that, they're witnessing behavior that is alarming. Screaming, throwing objects, even hitting teachers and classmates. This isn't something 6 or 7-year-olds are emotionally equipped to handle. We're teaching our children that this behavior is normal, even acceptable, by asking them to immediately forgive the student and move on. That sends a confusing and harmful message that aggression is tolerated and boundaries don't matter. These young students are expected to emotionally process situations that would be hard for many adults to witness. They're becoming scared in the very place that's supposed to feel safe, their school. Our incredible teachers, who've already taught so much this year despite these challenges, are not being given the support they need. They are general education teachers, not trained behavioral specialists or crisis intervention staff. They should not have to manage violent and unsafe behavior while also trying to teach a full classroom of students. From a parent's perspective, there is a clear lack of leadership, presence, and response. Almost done. We know inclusion is important, but it cannot come at the cost of safety, stability, and education for the entire class. We need balanced solutions, more behavioral support staff, better crisis planning, and transparent communication with families. I really hope that you will take a hard look at the system and the protocols and understand they might be lacking by not providing a consistently safe environment. I'm concerned that the current system has put our kids in an unsafe environment, normalized unsafe behavior and evacuations, and that there is not a clear system in place that will change the trajectory of what's happening. My question for you is what specific protocols are being implemented to ensure the safety of all students during these incidents? What specific protocols are being implemented to ensure the safety of all students during these incidents? And at what point does the frequency or severity of these disruptions prompt the district to take additional or different action? Let's not wait until more learning is lost, more teachers are burnt out, and more children are afraid to go to school. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, Alyssa McCarty.
Good evening. My name's Elisa McCarty. I live in St. Charles. My kids go to Fox Ridge. And unfortunately, I'm standing in front of you on the same exact topic as the last two parents and many parents after me. As a mother of two at Fox Ridge, I'm honestly saddened and incredibly upset that I must speak on the topic of safety for my two young children at the school. For the last 2 academic years, my kids have come home sharing alarming reports of the aggressive verbal and physical behavior they are subjected to while at school, which should arguably be one of the safest places they could go. That flying objects, thrown chairs and tables, screaming and hitting teachers is known as a norm, not an exception. That reverse evacuations are the standard of care rather than the seldom need or one tool to be used. As a parent, I know kids act out. I know kids push boundaries. It's how they learn. But let's not mistake typical kid behavior with absolutely unacceptable and aggressive outbursts. This is more than concerning as a parent, and for several reasons. I begin to wonder if my kids are safe at school. We teach fire drills, tornado drills, active shooter drills in the name of safety. Now we also teach reverse evacuation for safety against their peers. The emotional toll my kids now face, the effects they have on their small but mighty psyches, the lessons I have to share about how not to behave in reference to someone they sit next to in class. The lesson this teaches our children, that actions no longer have consequences, that aggression is an acceptable behavior if you don't get your way, that forgiveness is an expectation when not even asked for, that school is not always a safe haven. In all of this, one note I would be remiss not to mention is the complete lack of communication from the administration. As I have called to inquire and spoken to Principal Woodring, I've been told that it's in the name of privacy that we don't speak to the parents. I don't disagree that privacy is paramount, but I'm not asking for anything that risks the privacy of any student. Privacy is now used as a scapegoat. Instead, I'm asking for open discussion with parents so I can support my children. Instead, my 6-year-old little girl has taken the job of an effective self-advocate, a job she should never have been expected to fill at only 6. Where is the advocacy and care for my child? What about the majority of the children in these classrooms? How is it deemed acceptable performance from an administrator to not communicate when a reverse evacuation is a daily occurrence? It's critical to note that this is not in any way a reflection of the teachers. They are incredible. I say this on their behalf as well. They deserve support, and they have a right to a safe work environment. They've earned the backing of their leaders. We have incredible educators, and we will lose them if we don't stand up. Their classrooms have become hostile environments. What a disservice to the men and women shaping the very future we hold so dear. The ask is for accountability, for safety, and for an environment that's conducive to learning. Who is serviced in this environment? Not the majority of kids, and not the kids acting out in this way. No one is learning. No one feels safe. To end, I don't want to just speak words. I have to see action. As a parent, I've taught my kids that I have a job, and it's to protect them, to teach them, to raise them. What would I be if I only stand on my words alone? Words are tired and useless at this point, and action is the only acceptable response. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, I would like to ask Bo Warren forward, please.
Good evening. My name is Bo Warren, and I'm a resident here in St. Charles, is going to fall. And our children are homeschooled. I feel like, candidly, the topic I'm going to be addressing with you is probably not nearly the same degree of what I just heard, but I still want to make kind of make our point here this evening. So I did send a letter to the board, and thank you for the consideration. And first and foremost, I'd actually like to say thank you to District 303 for the support that you've offered our children over the past 5 years. We made the decision to start homeschooling them when the pandemic happened. And so at home, we have a fairly robust curriculum that we've developed for them. They attend homeschool cooperatives. They participate in kind of leading edge homeschool curriculums. They're actually taking college courses while at the middle school level. We have them in private lessons and music and other things. And so they're very busy kids, but they love to participate in District 303 activities. Our oldest son, who's now in high school, was in track and chess club and math club and participated in a number of activities throughout his middle school career at Redling Middle School. And our middle son's now kind of following in the same vein. And so I know we're discussing the policy, or you're going to be discussing the policy of whether or not those activities can continue for homeschool children within the district. And I would just strongly encourage that they do continue uninterrupted from the current way that they're able to participate. The half-day program, which I know is kind of the language I think being debated from a legal perspective from what I've been able to gain. I did watch the YouTube video of the last meeting. That would be incredibly difficult for our kids given their schedule. Like I said, we have them actively involved in numerous educational opportunities, numerous different classes, numerous different types of coursework, and to require them to then take a half day out of that already very tailored and custom curriculum to come to school would be disruptive. And so we feel it would rob them of the academic program we've been able to give them at home, and then simultaneously rob them of the community integration that they're able to achieve by being a part of those activities after school. And so would just encourage you to strongly consider keeping that policy as is and not changing it. So thank you.
Thank you. Next, I would ask Rebecca Warren to come forward.
Hi, Rebecca Warren, St. Charles, wife of Bo Warren. I really don't have too much other to say than I want to thank as well. I really appreciate Redling Middle School for all that they've done for my oldest son and now for my second son in the extracurricular activities. It's a joy every day to take him over there at 2:45 and to have him welcomed into the school and be able to participate. As my husband said, it would rob him of his other academic and extracurricular or extra activities if he does have to attend a half day of school. Therefore, I'm asking for him and for you to consider keeping it the same that it is in the policy, as it is a wonderful interaction for him to stay amongst the community with the kids and then to go on to his sports and evenings, knowing kids and not being the, quote, homeschooler that just comes and joins activities at night. I feel that if he has to attend a half a day of school, we will no longer be able to participate because it will not work with his academics, and therefore it would be devastating to him. So in his interest and any other homeschoolers that are actually utilizing what is available from the district, I'm asking that you continue to keep the policy as such. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, may I ask Kelly Shield to come forward?
Hi, excuse me. I'm Kelly Sheld. I'm from the St. Charles area. I'm here tonight because I've lost my trust in the district. Last month, I made the very difficult decision to pull both my daughters from their elementary school. Both of them have always loved school. Over the summer, they would always ask, when's school starting again? We can't wait to be back in our school. And I felt that same excitement. For the past several years, I've been very active with the PTO, including being the president, and it really gave me a purpose and strength, and I loved being within that community. But over time, that joy was replaced with concern. Regular communications from the school about classroom disturbances became the norm. Each day, my first question wasn't, how was your day, with excitement? It was, did anyone misbehave? Did anyone hurt you today? The lack of discipline and protection they've witnessed hasn't just impacted them academically. It's begun to shape how they view the adults around them, the same adults that they were taught would protect them, guide them, and advocate for them. In their eyes, they no longer have that. That loss of trust is heartbreaking. Then came the day I was notified that my daughter was hit with an object in class. Soon after, She walked out of school and told me she was scared to be in that classroom and to be at recess. As a parent, their primary protector, how long do you let that continue? How long do you wait for a change? What has to happen before you decide enough is enough? For me, it was watching my happy, energetic, school-loving daughter become withdrawn, sad, and afraid to go to school. When I asked for a classroom change, I was told it wasn't an option. Since then, many families from across the whole district have shared similar stories with me. This isn't about one student or one classroom or even one school, as you can tell with the stories you're hearing tonight. This is a larger issue. I moved to this community because of this district, because of the excellence it's known for. And while I still love the incredible teachers and staff that I've gotten to know over the years, I've lost my trust. And I lost it at the moment I heard my child say, "I'm scared to be in class." I hope each of you take a moment tonight and reflect on that. What would it take for you as a parent or a leader within this community to make a change? What needs to happen before our students feel safe every single day and our staff feel supported with that safety? Our children really deserve better, and I thank you for your time for listening to all of our stories tonight.
Thank you. Next, I would ask Suzanne Whittington to come forward, please.
Hi. My name is Suzanne Whittington. I've been part of the St. Charles community for over a decade, and all three of my children attend schools in the district, Haynes and Munhall. I'm an active parent in the school, and I'm currently serving my third year on their PTO board. I'm here today to talk about the way the district is implementing a one-size-fits-all plan when it comes to students, even those that need additional help, whether that is with academics, social, or behavioral issues. District 303 has decided to throw all students into a classroom together with little to no training for teachers, very little additional support for the classroom, and no personalized, in-depth help for the students that need it. Around 5 to 6 years ago, we had Strive, a program that pulled students from the classroom to give them a more one-on-one education geared towards their academic level. These students were far behind academically or showed social or behavioral issues that would impede their peers from learning. Through educational support, coping mechanisms, and one-on-one support, these students strived, no pun intended. They would slowly attend classes with a teacher's aide to be put with their peers, but for most of the day, they would be separated in a different learning environment. As time continued and their emotions and learning improved, they would be in a classroom with their peers more and more, the goal being to get them back into the general population by the end of 5th grade. This was a program that was doing great for the students and loved by all staff. District 303 instead canceled the program, deleting everything online about it and shoved these students into the general population with little to no warning given to teachers and parents. Children since have not grown academically or learned to cope with their feelings. Instead, they have fallen behind and are becoming constant disruptions to the classroom at the cost of the 20+ other students in class. I've been aware of many students throughout the district, as you have today, about students that should be put in this program. Personally, there's currently a student in my daughter's class that has insinuated violent threat towards her and her peers on multiple occasions, but he is still allowed in the classroom. He's still mentioning violent attacks, and in the process making students, my daughter included, scared to go to school. School is supposed to be the safe place. This child has been expressing this behavior since kindergarten, with nothing being done. My fear is that one day he may decide to act on his impulses and actually do the harm he speaks of with a pencil, a kitchen knife, or something far worse. Students such as this, or those that are left behind academically and so act out in boredom, constantly disrupt learning, cause evacuations of their classrooms, and have even caused emotional or physical harm to their peers and teachers. Per the Association for Supervision and Curriculum Development, in a 2020 article, small interruptions and disruptions they cause can add up to a considerable amount of lost time learning. They estimate the approximately 3.5 minutes of instructional time is lost due to interruptions every hour of the school day. Teachers say it's much higher. Scaling these estimates by 5.5 hours per day and 180 school days per year suggests that students lose between 10 to 20 days of instructional time over the course of the year. This is enough time to categorize every student in the district as truant or even chronically absent, all while they are in school. Children are particularly vulnerable to disruptive events because of shocks and traumas experienced in early life alter their developmental trajectories and result in long-term consequences on their health, attainment, and well-being. The loss of classroom time, 10 to 20 days worth, was an estimate without any of the disruptions caused by the evacuations that you've been hearing all about. My son was in one of those classes last year as well. This district's plan has been to put a Band-Aid on the situation. They have moved students to different schools, just continuing the cycle to a different group of students. They have had students in detention and in-school suspensions just to send them back to the classroom to do it all over again. There is no plan in place, no system to rely on. Why is this? The district's reasoning is for inclusion. Do you really feel students who are below their peers educationally feel really great about themselves when the classroom learning goes above their heads? Do you not think they may get heartbroken at not knowing what is going on? Do you not think they may become bored and act out because of this? I'm all about inclusion, but on this subject, I feel we need to implement equity and not equality. We need to provide resources and opportunities based on individual needs to ensure that everyone has the same outcome. I feel what the district is currently doing is only weakening our educational system overall and ultimately our district. Our district, which is what most families have come here for, has failed so many students lately. I am beyond concerned and unhappy. It is time for a change, and I feel that we should bring back the Strive program or something like it, because these kids totally deserve better. I thank you for your time and listening to me.
Thank you. May I ask Fred Dennis to come forward?
Hi, everybody. We're all here, I believe, because we care about kids. And so the highest goal should be what is best for the students from this district. I and my wife are retired public school teachers. I think we have a lot of insight into what happens in public schools. I'm here to talk about homeschool situations and extracurricular activities. First of all, I believe that extracurricular activities probably give more bang for the buck, taxpayers' buck, than the regular classroom does, just because of the circumstances and how much learning occurs and how much the supervisors, if they are good educators, get to know their kids and interact with them. And over 70% of homeschool parents' tax bills go toward public schools, for which they get almost no personal benefit except for the societal benefit. And I think that you should strive as much as possible to allow homeschooled kids every access for extra or after-school activities that you can give them. The requirement for half-day going to school, I think, and this is just a strong opinion, but I think the roots of those rules and regulations and policies were to help state reimbursement for the schools, because their reimbursement is based on average daily attendance. And we also have to ask ourselves, why why has homeschool situations more than doubled over the past 5 or 6 years? Initially, it was COVID, but many of those homeschool kids haven't come back to the public school system. And we have to ask ourselves why. What is happening in the schools that makes parents wary of some of what is happening, especially in science classes, in sex education classes, in social studies classes, where although most teachers are honorable and good, some of them have personal biases and indoctrinate rather than teach, and sticking to the to reading, writing, arithmetic, and unbiased history and things like that. So, in conclusion, I implore you, it's not fair to put, in my opinion, to put any restrictions on extracurricular activity for any of your district children. It's been bothering me all my years as a teacher. Why are homeschool people not given more consideration? And thank you for listening.
Thank you. I would like to ask Heather Austin forward, please.
Hi there. Good evening, members of the board. My name is Heather Austin. I'm a parent of a student at Redling, and a student at Norton Creek, and a student at Fox Ridge. I can't say enough good things about how the first two buildings are run from a leadership and safety perspective. Over the past year, I've raised a number of concerns regarding leadership and communication practices within Fox Ridge. These concerns have consistently centered on issues of safety, staff support, and responsiveness. Recently, I learned that the building's principal's response to concerns about not responding to staff via walkie-talkies, meaning she is not responding to calls for help from staff, is to deny requests for walkie-talkies in rooms that don't have them. This raises serious questions about how communication and crisis response are being managed within the school. From my understanding, district policy and best practice suggests that each classroom should have access to a communication device to ensure a timely response to safety situations. Currently, that is not the case at Fox Ridge. It is the case at Norton Creek. I am asking the board to review current practices at Fox Ridge with a specific focus on how safety and communication protocols are being managed and implemented and monitored, whether staff have the tools and leadership support necessary to maintain a safe learning environment, and what oversight mechanisms are in place to ensure district expectations are being met at the building level. My intent is not to criticize, but to advocate for accountability, transparency, and most importantly, the safety of our students and staff. I appreciate your attention in this matter and urge the board to take a closer look at what's happening at Fox Ridge. I would also like to express support for the existing policy to allow homeschooled children living within the district to be able to participate in after-school activities for D303. Thank you for your time and your commitment to our schools. I appreciate your time.
Thank you. Next, I would ask Kim Olongi.
Hi, good evening. Thank you for having me. I appreciate all of your time. And I had something more formal come up, but I'm just going to go off of the cuff based off of some of the stories and experiences that we've heard tonight. I'm the proud parent of a 7th grader who was proud to be part of the last graduating class here at Lincoln. So we were also displaced by the rebounding, and my 2 other children are now at Munhall Elementary. It's a 5th grader and a 3rd grader. And for the past 2 years, we've also had similar stories of frequent evacuations, far more than what has been communicated by the principal, including my son being hit in the head, in the side of the head, and me not being contacted. Daily disruptions of another child standing on a table in the back of the classroom, screaming point blank in other students' ears, being threatened with physical violence. I've also heard instances of multiple times of being stabbed with pencils and attempted stabbings with pencils. debooking, making fun of, swearing at not only other students, but also staff, and just general disrespect. My 7th grader at Redling has had a positive experience throughout elementary school, and so far at Redling, she's in AT Math, AT Lit, and is part of the AVID program, and her whole life has wanted to be a teacher, and just now she's second-guessing that because of the experiences that she sees her siblings having at Munhall and having to deal with the frequent conversations that I'm having with teachers and administration. And I think it's clear that this isn't just siloed to one school. It's across the board an epidemic at our elementary school level. And these poor kids, they see this bad behavior being rewarded because the other 19 or 22, depending on which class it is, has to be evacuated, sometimes even locked into a different classroom for fear that this other kid is going to run in and attack them with the pencil, as he's threatened multiple times. It's just really sad to see the light being dimmed from these kids, and that's not the goal for any of us in this room or any of you sitting here. And as a volunteer in both classrooms and the Lincoln PTO and the Munhall PTO and a Girl Scout troop leader, and in my own career mentoring young professionals, this is not what we want. We want this next generation to rise up and be the best that they absolutely can be, and they can't do that if they can't feel safe. So my ask of you tonight is to review the accountability and providing resources to not only the staff, but the administration too, because all we keep hearing is that our hands are tied and it's going to take another couple weeks, and wait another few weeks for this meeting. But at what point does this become a larger safety issue? So I thank you for your time tonight.
Thank you. I would like to ask Jessica Metz forward.
All right. Good evening. My name is Jessica Metz, and we have a student that attends in the district. With the, I've got a completely different topic. However, it runs with a lot of what you guys are saying. With the involvement of the Department of Education, and most recently the large cut to the Office of Special Education Programs, I'm putting in a request to our district leaders. I'm also looking to the board for support and accountability on this. While IDEA, the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, is still law, the federal oversight and funding support for IDEA just had a major cut. I understand there's a lot of unknown at the moment. However, this affects all of our students. As you can clearly tell from tonight's citizen comments, special education services and the lack of support affects every single student in the district. Many general education families may not be aware of the impact, though it seems that they're increasingly aware. On the flip side, special education families are experiencing anger for sure, and that's built on fear. Some families are going to take it in stride. I ask our district to embrace the opportunity to accentuate their leadership abilities. I'm asking for competent communications to address uncertainty. Be honest about the impacts and the challenges we're facing. Model resilience. A steady and constructive communication can build trust. Do we have plans for a projected impact? Is there a plan to form a plan? How will we persevere? Please give our community and families some words of acknowledgement. This is not political. This is facing our reality now. I'm calling on our district to pioneer confidence in our community. Communicate these realities like we communicate the attendance policy. I call on the board to enforce this strengthening measure. Leadership has a way of being reflected. What reflection of yourselves would you like to see in our community and school district? I'm also going to go off cuff. A lot of special education families have had a lot to say over the last couple of years. And I think that the chickens have come home to roost, so to speak, as we see an increase in behaviors that are affecting a lot of our other students. A lot of us have asked for some one-on-one support that is continuously denied. We have asked for support that is continuously denied. My son has eloped from his class 40 times in the month of September. While less disruptive to other students, that does take a paraprofessional away. I did look at the personnel report of resignations for the last month, and 7 out of 10 of those are paraprofessionals. That impacts all of your students. We are losing people. Your staff is not being supported well enough. And I really, really urge you to get ahead on communications to families because we are in a little bit of a despair here. I thank you so much for your time. I'd love to stay as usual, but I won't be able to tonight. Have a good Tuesday evening.
Thank you very much. I appreciate all of you taking the time to either attend or to speak tonight. That does conclude our citizen comments. With that, we will move to the superintendent update.
Thank you, Mrs. Viergrieve. I'd love to welcome up Rebecca Laporter and Nicole Osborne for conversation around the impact that cell phones are having at the high school level. Becca and Nicole are the assistant principals for Student Life who directly oversee departments within the dean's office, and they work side by side with myself and many others in the early adoption or early work of the cell phone procedure that our district has implemented. In addition, Becca and Nicole have been instrumental on the implementation committee, which was a smaller committee, but a committee that was duly focused on the day-to-day. How are we going to ensure that this policy is put in place and that it's effective on the first day and on October 14th and January 20th, all the way to the end of the school year. I'm very pleased with their leadership and the work they've done to support this procedure within both of the high schools across the board. We're seeing it to be very effective and seeing some different cascading events because of the procedure itself that both will speak to. So Becca and Nicole, welcome. I'm not sure who's kicking us off tonight, but all right. Becca, it sounds like you've got the microphone first.
All right. Well, thanks for having us tonight. We're both very excited to be here. It doesn't seem like too long ago that we were sitting at this table in the spring, just kind of kicking off our ideas about this policy coming our way, some reservations we were hearing from our staff, and probably even some apprehension from the both of us too. But sitting here today, we're really excited to share how well it is actually going. So how did we get here? Well, all year last year, as you are well aware, we had a community group of parents, staff, students come together. We did a book study. We really got grounded in the value of where this was coming from. And we can at least both speak to, boots on the ground in our schools, giving a lot of recognition to the work that we put in all year last year and how that has really made a positive impact on our experiences this year. One of the biggest things that we talked about the last time we got together was our goal in August to provide professional development that could kind of kick off our first implementation year. We received a lot of feedback from our staff about being nervous in the classroom, having tools in their toolbox, how to address students that might be non-compliant, and then also how to partner with families and to have a universal referral system at both schools so that when the time came, there was an easy method for which they could communicate to us. So those are some of the things that we talked about the last time that we got together, and Nicole is now going to speak a little bit to the preparation that we put in so that we would have, predictable environments.
Okay, so one of the things that Becca mentioned, and we do spend a lot of time together talking about a lot of things, making sure that we're a collaborative group. We spent a lot of time, even in the winter of 2024, just having conversations, starting to think about critical conversations with the staff. How are we going to have a common language? What can we do to get the implementation process working? So there were some initial conversations that were coming out of that committee that had started. And then from there, we proceeded into different kinds of groups discussing how are we going to work with teams, families, and then finally students. So we really did think about the Better Together concept and got our teams together to discuss what do we want in the spring? What's the implementation process going to look like? Because you can have a policy, but if you don't have an implementation plan, it's only going to go so far. So we spent a lot of time introducing the staff to what do we want to achieve? What is our end goal? And thinking about the steps to take that. So we really thought about teaching first. We're a learning institution, focusing on teaching, then focusing on reiterating the point, and then communicating with families. And then we kind of can take steps on how do we take intervention into account. So it was really about thinking differently about how we approach even discipline. How can we do restorative conversations? So really thinking about that communication process. So we did a couple of different things. We did do some open houses at East. We did some class meetings. Open houses are just opportunities for staff to ask questions and find out like what are their needs. In the spring, they talked a lot about how are they going to figure this out? What kinds of things are we going to do to intervene? There were a lot of worries. As we proceeded, those worries kind of lessened over time. And it was really important for us to kind of address what do we need to do in August. So as Becca mentioned, in August, we did a launch. We made sure that we were thinking about walkthroughs. Are we going to see in classrooms that they're going to implement the policy? Where are we going to see the cell phones and the holders? So we really trained the staff. What do we want to expect from our students? And we all need to do this together. So we went through class meetings with all of the classes that happened on both sides of the river, and we made sure that that language was common, so it wasn't, this is what they're doing at North, this is what they're doing at East, this is what we are doing together as a district to move this forward. So we followed up with different emails, we helped to support the staff, we did a lot of positive intervention with them and positive intervention with the students. We've done a lot more integration into the digital world for students. We promote a lot of things on our newsletters, great job, you guys are doing a wonderful job. They see the information, they know they're doing a good job. We talk a lot about that on different platforms. So we're seeing a little bit of a restorative practice in what could we do better as students. So we're changing the narrative on the culture piece. The other thing that we wanted to kind of talk a little bit about is how we're doing that with fidelity. So we do use the caddies, as you see here. The blue one is the one that we use on the walls, and then the one that's white is the one that they use through PE classes. They're carriers. And we try to make sure that those are used on the daily. So we every hour, every day. We do walkthroughs to kind of hold the students accountable, but also expect that the staff is providing that. So fortunately, Dr. Gordon and Board President Heidi, they were able to come and see us and see that was part of the plan. So we spent a lot of time in August talking about we go together or we stop. It was really important to think about the onboarding process. How are we going to do this together? Thinking about critical conversations. North did a lot with restorative practices in recent SIP Plan Day. And we also collect the data through walkthroughs. So administration walks around, we kind of see for the purposes of safety, but also the purposes of the cell phone policy, how we're doing in classrooms. So we do collect that data on the regular. And then we also have continued to do partnership work with our families and our students as well. So this is just data to share. This one comes from East. Just a little bit of information. On the left, you'll see a pie chart. This is through the walkthrough data that we've taken with our forums, 95.7%. So this has improved since the last time some of us have seen it. But that is the percentage at which the cell phone policy is being adhered to in the building. And one of the things that we felt that has significantly improved is general behavior. Just because we have thought about cell phones and attendance, those are two strong initiatives this year, we really also noticed a great delineation between cell phones and other behavioral issues. So to your right, some to your left, you'll notice a lot of details about referrals, behaviors, and feedback, and how significantly things have changed over time. And we do think that because we focused on cell phones, there also has been an improvement on social media bullying or other kinds of, different interactions that have happened with students because we've kind of implemented this policy. So in the same period of time from last year, the 24 to 25, 66% decrease in device-related referrals from this last year. And less than 1% of our referral-related data is related to cell phones. And you can see we've risen at East and kind of ebbs and flows, but we do continue to rise at East. And this year, or this month in October, we've had 2 referrals. So.
All righty, so to switch gears just a little bit to North data, we have also experienced some pretty positive outcomes just like East. What you see here is a slew of just device-related information. So from last school year to this school year, over the same amount of days, we've had a 58% decrease in device-related referrals. And just so we have an understanding of what we mean by device-related referrals, there's a lot of different things that teachers refer to the dean's office related to devices. Some of it might simply be, at this point in time, non-compliance putting the phone in the caddy, but it isn't just as simple as that. A device-related referral could be using the cell phone during non-instructional time in an inappropriate manner. It could be taking pictures without consent. It could be a lot of other things. We tried to focus on these referrals, that it would just be about devices, because that was what was directly related to the policy that we're sharing about tonight. We did not necessarily include Chromebooks as a part of some of these referrals. We really wanted to talk about cell phones. Which is exciting because only 2% of the total referrals that the dean's office has received to date at North have been related to cell phones specifically. We think a lot of that has to do with simply out of sight, out of mind. They don't have their phones in their hands, so they're not more likely to use them appropriately or inappropriately. Walkthrough data for us is we had our staff most recently in the last month or so do spot checks in classrooms, and 100% of all of our classroom spaces are using caddies. And those spot checks were random throughout the day in all classrooms, including gymnasiums and some other ancillary rooms that require caddies like auditoriums and such. So we are really excited. Overwhelmingly, this has proved to the staff and to our families that what we're doing is working and that it has been worth it. So that's obviously good news for all of us. So speaking about some of the behavior interventions and support, this was a hot topic for our staff going into the school year, is not only how are we going to equip them at the tier 1 level to responding to behaviors in the classroom, but also how is our administrative team at the tier 2 and tier 3 level going to have the capacity to potentially address new issues related to cell phones with this new policy and procedure. Some of the things that we've really been focusing on is partnering with families, teaching replacement behaviors, conferencing with our students. We have tapped into some more creative interventions this school year, like loss of privileges, most specifically removal of the device, which has surprisingly been supported by the families that are in those situations, which obviously partnering with them, that makes it easier for us when we collaborate with each other. So for both of our schools, we were pleasantly surprised that when we reviewed our device-related incidents, that we each only had 1 or 0 repeat offenders, which in the dean's office, that is what we really look at to measure if our interventions are effective. Are the consequences that we're applying to students eliciting a positive behavior change? If we only have 1 or 0 repeat offenders, we would like to confidently say that yes, they are at this point in time. And another piece of the puzzle that we definitely wanted to mention is that we focused heavily with our staff on what do we do in our environments now that cell phones are not present. Things that the students brought up in our community over all of last year was, well, how are we going to listen to music? Or music is a coping tool. How am I going to replace that if I don't have my own phone? So one piece that we talked a lot about in our August training with staff was how do we enrich the environment differently? So our gyms, for example, the teachers have talked to students, gotten playlists that are appropriate in their preferences, and they play them over the loudspeakers now. Even down to facilities, we've been working heavily with getting access to class sets of headphones, or fixing our speakers so that it can play music if the teachers are coming to us and asking for those things. So it has very much been a well-rounded approach. One thing that we've been focusing on too is digital citizenship. That was mentioned in the policy. So procedurally, we've talked with our student services teams at each high school and working with our LRC staff as well, our tech instructional coaches, and we are teaching the kids about digital citizenship too. So although they don't have as much access to their cell phones during class time, how are we still engaging them in learning surrounding the digital footprint and cyberbullying and being safe online and all of the things that are absolutely necessary in our age group? And then we have some anecdotal evidence to share with you. So Nicole touched on this a little bit, is what have been the byproducts of this cell phone policy, which is really cool for us. Our deans assistants, our staff talk a lot about these things. Now that the students don't have their phones as much in their hands in the classroom, we have less students in the hallway during instructional time. They're asking to leave the classroom less often. We have less students arranging coordinated meetings with their friends in bathrooms or outside of the classroom. We've both had less dean's referrals for students recording each other or taking pictures without consent during instructional time. And the best is that we've had a lot of staff talk to us about that they've observed an increase in social interactions during lunch, which ironically is one of the times during the day that they are allowed to have their cell phones. So it's been a very eye-opening experience for all of us. We were really nervous going into the school year. And so all of the things that we've been able to share with you tonight have really put everyone, I would say families included, at ease that this has been well worth the hard work. And some parent feedback that we've been getting just being able to meet with families is that they report observing less screen time at home, which is really interesting, and that families are supportive of our consequences for the most part. When we've had to restrict the device at schools, sometimes they even pair with us and say, okay, well, we're also going to implement restrictions at home, and then you get that team dynamic, which really works well with the higher age level of students.
So we did collect some staff feedback, and again, this is various ways, open houses, conversations, office visits, things like that. And these are just some of the highlights, but I think what is really special about all of the staff feedback is how relieved they seem in a lot of ways, but also that they feel supported. There have been various conversations, I know we've talked about it a lot, where they just feel like there's somebody to go to talk about what's the next thing, or how can I work with this, or this is the conversation I'm having, how can I work this out? And I think that two-way dialogue is very special. And being here in a previous year, I think that was something that we really tried to work on coming into this year. Like, is there this opportunity to have better conversations? And I think that is happening, just as you kind of look at some of the feedback, but also that the students are not as shocked as we thought they would be. Like, this is just a thing that we do, and we just go to the class and whoop, we're on, like, let's go. So I think that, is it a big deal? It's a big deal if you make it a big deal. And right now, this is just the norm, and this is just how we learn, and this is just how we grow. But I think what is really special is thinking about how we're moving it forward, which kind of moves us to future planning. And probably one of the most distinct efforts is to really continue to think about surveys from different stakeholders. Again, we continue to collect information from the staff, but also the students, and then eliciting feedback we'd like to kind of hear a little bit more from the community and families about how they're feeling about it. Probably one of the most influential and I think powerful experiences are the teamwork that we've kind of encountered. I think Becca could attest to this maybe, but I feel like it's been really special to work together, to come together and make this happen. So there's a real big kind of cheering for our teams and how they've worked really hard to make this what it is. So that's really, really special. And then continued efforts to restorative practices. Again, reemphasizing the better together, looking at the data. We share the data with staff meetings or different newsletters that go out to the staff. They get to see it. I talk about it with students. There's a conversation there. So the culture is different and that how we approach how we're doing as a group. And that differs depending on who you're talking to, but there's this idea that it is a conversation to be had. The other thing that's really important is thinking about looking back at that data and how can we improve. So we're always trying to rise above the next, what's the next step? What are we going to do next? How do we want to approach the next thing? I think for both of us, we're really leaning towards attendance, but I think that that's the next stage as we kind of the narrative around cell phones is positive. Digital citizenship, we already kind of talked about that a little bit. We're going to continue to make that a positive intervention as we move forward. We want to make sure that each time we kind of get together for the quarter, that we're moving that intervention forward and it's not lost in those first fall months because it's easy to kind of lose sight, but to continue to check in and make sure that we're on par with kind of what our expectations were from the beginning, and continue to use the data to help drive us in the right direction. But the message emphasis is again on common language, that we're teaching first, we're reiterating, and that we're communicating it.
Becca and Nicole, thank you so much. Board members, any questions of the two?
Yeah, I don't have a question. I just wanted to commend your efforts. I taught high school for many years and watched the progression of the amount of time students were spending on their screens and just how detrimental that was, not only to their learning, but just their social interaction and their growth. And I think that by doing this as a district, we're really giving them permission to put it down and to just be present. And so I just applaud your work, and that, like you said, things can often start out really strong and then we can kind of taper off. And so just keep doing what you're doing, because I think we're seeing it's working. Thank you.
Yeah, I'll echo that as well. Great work with the consistency of the implementation. If everybody's doing the same thing, then it's a lot easier to keep everybody to that standard. You asked my question, or you answered my question about the repeat offenses, so that's encouraging as well, because those interventions are working. The other question I had is, has there been any issues with damaged, stolen, lost items like that, where the individuals are putting them in the caddies?
So interestingly enough, I was just asking the deans about theft, because that had kind of been a question of yours when you came to visit. We haven't had any referrals to our dean's office for theft of devices from the caddies in the classrooms. And I don't think you have either.
We have not. I think there's been the occasional I picked up the wrong phone number or something, and we've discovered it later, but nothing that would warrant a theft or a referral to the dean's office.
I do think that's an ode to our teachers, though. They have been absolutely fantastic with the implementation of this. They have chosen strategic placement of the caddies in their classrooms so that they are constantly being supervised. They're reminding students all of the time to be cognizant of where they put their phone and mindful of keeping their hands only on their own cell phones. So I think that has a lot to do with the.
I think you're only as good as your team. And I think that ultimately the team has really shown that they are willing to get behind this, and this is the expectation, this is what we're going with. And so again, I think they're really thinking about togetherness, and that's what they've shown to students.
I just want to say thank you also. I know it's been a lot of work collaborating and really following through on this. And this is such a very, very complete report to the board. Thank you very much. And I'm so proud of our staff and our kiddos for just locking in and getting it done. And how great is it to hear you say that they're talking to each other more at lunch when they're allowed to use their phones? Who'd have thunk it? So, and yes, that's improper English, but it's being silly on purpose. That's amazing. I'm so happy. So thank you again so much.
Real quick, I won't take more time because you did an outstanding job. Thank you. Thank you for the process. I think it was a process that showed things can work. I've heard more people say in the last week, together is better, but thank you for the process and following through on it, because everybody's voice was heard, the implementation was put in, and we're seeing the kind of results we were hoping, so thank you.
You're welcome.
I would just say, a good presentation, but great results, which I think is really probably most important or impactful. My question is around the digital footprint and digital citizenship. How or where are we teaching that? How is that looking in the high school?
So I can speak to North. Our LRC director and our instructional coach for technology actually are the two primary individuals in our building that are implementing the digital citizenship. So right now, classes come down to the LRC at timed intervals throughout the year, and they learn specific lessons about digital citizenship from them. So it's a nice experience because the kids get to come down and they get to learn from someone other than the teacher. Something that we've been talking about in student services actually is how can we tap more into what we're already doing as an outcome of the policy.
And is that primarily targeted for English classes?
I know it's been a mix because we try not to interrupt one department too often, and so it is happening across the board.
Okay.
Yep.
I wouldn't say East is different in any sort of way. Like, we really have tried to work in a similar fashion. Like, if it's something that we've talked about at North, and that's something that we try to like go over here and do at East. Class meetings was something that East was doing, so North was like, let's take that on. So I think it really speaks volumes to the collaboration of, this is working, what do you think we should do about this? So I wouldn't say that that's any different than what we're doing.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you to both of you for your leadership, but I would also echo what Mrs. McCabe and others. It was a lengthy process. It was tons of engagement in hearing different voices across the spectrum to get to this point. I sit here incredibly proud of every educator who's taken this on, because at the end of the day, it was the educators who brought it forward to my team and asking for the district support in doing something like this. So from our educators saying, we've got to do something about these cell phones, to sitting here today, I think it's October 14th, and hearing the results is really impressive. And it is that better together, but it needed every educator to really wrap arms around each other to do this work. And it needed really strong leaders like the two of you and others to move this procedure to life. So thank you both for an outstanding presentation. And as Mrs. Feargreave said, even better data, which we absolutely appreciated. Thank you so much. Thank you for spending some time with us.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Mrs. Feargreave, we're going to hand it back to you for board reports.
Okay, so let's start with business services. I'm not sure who's gonna, Mr. Kuchert?
I can tackle that. Okay, so business services met back on September 29th, 5:30 p.m. We covered a couple of the normal items that we tend to cover in the meetings: Mid-Valley Report, CUSD 303 report, both revenue and expenditures in line with the prior year. We then had robust discussion regarding health, life, safety, construction needs. We will be going into a deeper dive today. There was a number of questions from board members, and I think we've received some questions from the community, at least initial questions as well. So we will have a nice, robust presentation this evening to go a little bit deeper into those items. We then covered RN substitute pay within the district in an effort, I should say, to have competitive pay for that position with our comparable districts. We then covered Infinite Vision software renewal, as well as automated external defibrillators maintenance renewal. All three of those aforementioned items should be on consent for this evening. Our next meeting will be October 27th. We'll have our first look at tax levy discussions, facility conversations, Richmond edition bid results, and Dr. Rich, am I missing anything?
You got everything in my notes, you got.
Okay, so October 27th, be there for that riveting discussion.
Thank you very much for that update. Do we have an update from a housing committee standpoint, Mrs. Bell?
Just a small one. The Habitat for Humanity event was on September 13th and went really well. They had lots of volunteers come out, so many that they had to turn some away. And the next meeting is on November 13th at City Hall.
Thank you. Learning and teaching.
That's me. We met on September 22nd at 6 p.m. and the major point of discussion was the Student Achievement Report planning. So we had a presentation by Yvette Stahl, who went into a deep dive into the first piece of it, which is really the academic piece, and showing how the state performance levels can provide clues on how we can expect our students to grow year over year. And we're just making an effort to closely monitor each student's cohort performance and identify notable growth trends, and that will help us to figure out what's working for learners and what isn't and how we can address those needs. We will be talking more about the rest of the SAR as far as having each student participate in a post-secondary academic or work-based experience. So we'll get a little bit more information on that at our next meeting, as well as a sense of belonging and how we're going to track and measure that. Our next meeting is on Monday, October 20th at 5:30 p.m. and we will also get a closer look at the academic program guide for board approval in November at that time.
Thank you very much for that update. And then next, I believe Mrs. McCabe, you're going to give an update on the policy committee.
And policy committee met on September 29th. We had, as you know, press provides with us with a review of policy, and this was our 5-year review, and there were most policies had just minor language cleanup, which are in our consent package, or what we're going to vote on in consent. There are 2 items that will be for action. One is policy 2.80, which is about board member oath conduct, and there press needs each board to decide whether or not to adopt language to allow formal censorship of a board member. That conversation at the committee was there's consensus to vote no on that action. We also looked at policy 740, which was about non-public school students. Our policy was missing a part of a sentence that would require and the Illinois Association of School Board recommends that the policy specifies the attendance for non-public students to participate in non-athletic extracurricular activities. We did have a long conversation about it because our current policy does not have that language. After discussion and questions, the board asked the administration to come provide more information, and that item is now an item for action, and the board will decide whether to align the policy to current practice or to adopt with the IASB, and that we will be voting on later in this meeting.
Thank you for that committee report, Mrs. McCabe. Next, moving to item 6 on the agenda. This is a follow-up, as was mentioned in the Business Services Committee update, follow-up from last time related to long-term capital planning.
Mrs. Fairgrieve, thank you so much. Ms. Jennifer Porter, our Chief Financial Officer, Amanda Stuber, our Executive Director of Facilities, will be joining us here, and we'll be doing the lion's share of the presentation. I will kick us off with this graphic. As we've collectively, the board, myself, have been partners over those last 3+ years. There's been some transformative work occurring throughout our district during that time. Really looking at our strong budget management as we came to the board, trying to ensure that we met the board's obligation or expectation that there was no deficits being run in any of the funds. One of the largest funds when I was here, it was Fund 10, which is the education fund, had a significant deficit within it, which prompted the response by the board, an appropriate response by the board, to say we shouldn't be running any deficits. With that work, in partnership with the board, myself and others and staff members, we made some really challenging decisions to ensure that the district got back on strong financial footing, especially in Fund 10, the educational fund. We've done some work, again, at the secondary level, really looking at the funding formula there as well to ensure that we are being as strong fiscal stewards as possible while still ensuring that we're meeting the needs of our students and staff. Within that first year, we had the great privilege of negotiating 3 different contracts. I don't know if everybody would agree with that phraseology of it, but we were really able, I'll speak to the teacher's contract, which is our largest group of staff members. I really believe, and I believe the board and others do, that was a contract that benefited both educators and the board administration. One of those aspects was really allowing the administration to plan for retirements. Once individuals reach certain milestones in their career, this provided us with valuable data to make informed decisions, strengthen our financial position as we plan for the future. We also engaged in boundary realignment to better utilize our school buildings. We reopened Fox Ridge as a K-5 elementary school. We centralized our early childhood center at the Haynes building and repurposed Lincoln Elementary to house our transition program for students ages 18 to 21, giving those students more opportunities to engage with nearby businesses. Lincoln also became home to our board meetings and first and foremost to our first professional learning center where educators can grow and develop. Additionally, Davis and Richmond elementary schools were restructured and returned to serve K-5 students rather than functioning as separate primary and intermediate schools. We've implemented programs to monitor residency, ensuring that the community tax dollars are spent on the students who live within our boundaries. One of our most important responsibilities is ensure that we're making strong academic improvements. And we'll see more evidence of that, as was just earlier alluded to, around our student achievement report in November. In short, much has been accomplished in D303 over the past 3+ years, but there's still important work ahead of us. One of those areas that deserves more attention is our facilities. Tonight you'll hear from Jennifer Porter and Amanda Stuber, our Director of Facilities, who will share more details about our work and next steps forward. Board, these 4 areas are what we are looking at: the situation, the complications, the question, the answer. Situation, we have a responsibility to be good stewards of the community schools and learning facilities. D303 has significant pressing needs in our aging facilities, and funding options are limited. The complications, we have hundreds of millions in documented needs, must be prioritized, addressed. Deferred maintenance, facility updates, classroom capacity needs, and programmatic needs are there as well. Our question: how do we collaborate with our community to prioritize our needs, maintain, and invest in our facilities, ensure a clear pathway to excellence for all D303 students? We believe it's through an inclusive process where we bring our community together that can provide the school board with input, expectations needed to determine the right responsible investments in our communities, facilities, and our assets. With that, I'd like to hand it over to Jennifer Porter, who will take us through some of our finances.
Good evening. Over the past several years, District 303 has strengthened its fiscal foundation through deliberate, transparent decision-making. Dr. Gordon spoke about the path the district has taken with strong budget management, improving staffing efficiencies, working with our union partners on fiscal responsible contracts, the boundary alignment to maximize our facility usage, and ensuring that we're using the community's funds for only students that are within our boundaries. The district has maintained balanced budgets and aligned spending with strategic goals. That strong foundation allows us to plan responsibly for the future, including our facilities. Our stability isn't just internal, it's validated externally. District 303 holds a AA+ credit rating, among the highest for Illinois school districts, and we maintain a perfect 4.0 state financial profile score for more than a decade. These ratings affirm discipline management and long-term stability. But as we move into facility planning, it's important to understand that financial strength doesn't always mean financial flexibility. Our funds are structured by state statute and board policy, which ensures accountability but limits flexibility. Most dollars are committed to instruction, transportation, debt, and other required costs. After this budget year, only about 10% of total resources will remain available for future facility investments. That reality is why we have to be intentional, making sure every facility dollar achieves the greatest impact. And that brings us to our facilities themselves, what we know about their age, condition, and needs. And I'll pass it on to Amanda.
Well, thank you. So with that strong and stable financial foundation, we're well positioned to plan responsibly for our facilities. Our schools span over 70 years of different construction and service needs, and with systems and learning environments that vary widely. Together, the 2020 Facilities Assessment and Educational Facilities Planning Committee identified more than $400 million in renewal and modernization needs. Our goal isn't to do it all, but it's to prioritize responsibly based on condition, impact, and community values. So as we previously shared, we have a significant amount of deferred maintenance and facility renewal needs as documented through the facility assessment in 2020. But going a step further, as requested by the board members over 2 weeks ago, the past 2 weeks, we have started to effort to translate those individual assessment needs that through our assessment findings into tangible project-based needs at each school. The full document has been shared with the board members at the table with a snippet shown on the screen here. This list is not yet to be considered an exhaustive or final list. Given that our buildings have continued to age and conditions have changed since the last formal assessment, it is expected that new needs will emerge and existing priorities will continue to be refined through ongoing review and planning. And then we have the academic, programmatic, and capacity updates, with the project scope shown here on the screen, previously developed as part of the Educational Facilities Planning Committee. These are projects that have the most tangible impact on learning and the student experience. Knowing these needs at a high level, we want to transition it over to talking about funding mechanisms for these known needs. So the purpose of today's presentation is not to determine how we fund future projects, but it is important for us to understand the gravity of how projects could impact our funding paths in the future. As requested by the board, we've completed an exercise to observe how the different funding models can address our financial needs. And so for this exercise today, we've selected a $300 million mark for projects, which is roughly 75% of our total needs that have previously been identified. And please note that this exercise is in no means a capital plan, but just used as a demonstration in relation to our known needs and our spending capability over the next 5 years. So utilizing that $300 million over the next 5 years, we've taken the steps of applying it towards different available funding mechanisms. First, with the baseline operating budget, what we currently do. And again, to reiterate, the purpose of this exercise is to demonstrate that if we were to start significantly addressing our facility needs, our current operating budget input for our capital projects would not suffice. And we completed a similar exercise with both the health life safety debt with using the $40 million mark. And then also potential referendum debt funding exercise, again, using a $300 million mark for that. So while we know that there's significant needs in our buildings over the next 5 years, we do need to establish a clear facilities prioritization process to provide intelligent decisions for our spending on our community assets. So to recap, we have identified over 400 million known needs in our facilities, but we are not suggesting that we need to address every single one of these within the next 5 years. They're just known things that have been known and verified in our buildings. There are going to be some significant and unavoidable costs in the next 5 years that can no longer remain on the back burner, especially pertaining to our facilities, our deferred maintenance and facility renewal needs. But then we also have documented needs as part of our Educational Facilities Planning Committee that were identified that must be reassessed to ensure the current validity and continued need for our educational environments. So with that, it is important that we evaluate, prioritize, and plan for what those needs systematically and responsibly. So what does that look like? Responsible planning means balancing needs, timing, and resources. We'll begin to organize and prioritize these needs into 3 different tiers. Our must-dos, which incorporate, our health, life, safety, our compliance, end-of-life systems. Our should-dos to improve our enhancing of learning environments. And our could-dos, more of those programmatical expansions in our buildings. This framework is what's going to help us understand and to focus on what matters most. And as Dr. Gordon and Ms. Porter alluded to in previous slides, we've taken steps to build that financial foundation. As I recapped, we've gathered that facility data and we're working towards update. But now it's time to bring in our community voice, and together we're going to define which investments best reflect D303's values and visions.
I apologize. What we're looking for in our next steps are these clear prioritization process to guide investment decisions and align with the district goals. What we would ask is that we bring back the Educational Facilities Planning Committee to ensure our facilities reflect today's community's expectations and priorities. We would internally partner with our construction teams to obtain updated costs to our deferred maintenance and facility needs, as well as prioritize items identified by the Educational Facility Planning Committee. So what it would look like from November through March 26, we would invite our district-wide community engagement process through that same period of time. Amanda, Jennifer, and others we're working with our partners to continue project estimates, scope defining, the sequencing, and the construction teams. In April, report to the board summarizing the building and the community priorities. This process ensures transparent, data-driven decision-making rooted in the public dialogue to help define what projects advance first and how we balance needs district-wide. This charge statement was at our previous business services meeting. It is the same charge statement. Going out to our community. That is what we're seeking the board consensus tonight, that the board gives me that consensus to move this forward to a community conversation. With that, I'd hand it back over to Mrs. Feargrieve.
Any questions, discussion?
I have a couple of points. I appreciate the financial analysis and the modeling. It points out a couple of different things to me. One is that whether we use the 400 million number, the 240 million number, or the 187 million number, however the exercise to identify the must-dos comes out, the number is going to be very large. If not 100 million, it'll be awfully close to 100 million. That, when we look at the scenarios that you've put forward on slides 15 through 17, it points out that it's almost impossible to address those must-dos through the operating budget alone. And so the idea of having a conversation with the community about where priorities sit, I think, is valuable. It is particularly important in the course of that conversation to explain to the community where the funding comes from and who pays for the debt, because really what we're talking about here is prioritizing capital investment. And there are only two ways that this district can really secure that amount of money. One is through the operating budget, and your exercise points out that that will be insufficient unless we were to make dramatic cuts in academic programming. And that'll be unacceptable to most members of the community because we all value the positive experiences that students have here. At the same time, the numbers, 240, 400, 187 million, these are giant numbers, and that means substantial debt burden for taxpayers here. And so my request is that we modify this charge statement to include a detailed explanation of how the funding mechanisms work for each of the different types. We've had a presentation here at the board table about health, life, and safety, and I'll just say at the outset, while the state may have granted school districts across the state the authority to issue debt bonds for projects that qualify under the state's appellation of health, life, and safety, I'm unwilling to endorse that level of debt with just the members of the board weighing in on such a thing. And so while we understand the authority that the board may have to encumber the community with such debt, going through a process like this where we can have a community conversation about the necessity for large-scale capital improvement offers the opportunity for the community to recognize the distance that the district needs to travel in terms of facilities management and to weigh in, and it prevents the board from taking unilateral action without the voice of the community. So I'm supportive of the charge statement. I'm supportive of the exercise. I think it's incumbent upon us to explain that every one of these bits will be most likely funded through a debt mechanism. And I think folks have to recognize that any of the debt that the district takes on is in addition to the annual levy that the district submits for the operating budget. And in fact, the service of the debt that we're talking about using to fund these big numbers and these big changes is, once passed through referendum, automatically applied to everyone's property tax bill. And so, to me, divorcing the discussion of the facilities from the fact that we're asking the community to tighten their belts and give more money to the district would be inappropriate. And so I just ask that we modify the charge statement. Sorry for the soliloquy there.
To tie to that, I would hope that the process is open to the committee looking differently at solutions. I think knowing well what it all means, knowing the impact that it will have, but there is an opportunity here to have people have real discussion. So the more transparent the district is with what the situation is, what the limitations are, what it means for impact to the taxpayer, they should all walk away knowing exactly what is being done. Because I think there's often a time when a district comes to this kind of situation and they ask a community to weigh in, that community will come with ideas and the board will say, no, we already have decided it and we're just doing an exercise. I would really like this to be not just an exercise, but a real roll up our sleeves working with the community. I think that's what this statement says, and I think that's been the process that we all believe in. I just want to make sure that that's clear to the people who are going to invest their time in being part of this committee.
I just wanted to say that I appreciate that the next step is hearing from the community. I think that similar to what Joe and Becky have both said, that there's still, I have a countless number of questions still, right? And I think that's a natural part of this process, is still so many things that I need to understand better, that I need to learn more about, but I also only know to ask questions about the things that I know and the things I understand. And there's so many areas that I am not an expert, especially in facilities management. And so when you have the community together, I think not only will I learn about how the community feels about this type of debt or, you know, some of the things that Joe mentioned, but we also have an opportunity to learn questions that they might have, or people who are experts in some of these areas might ask that I wouldn't even think to ask. So for me, there's value in hearing questions from the community members, hearing how they feel about it, hearing their reflections, and I think it's a very natural part of the process to start hearing from larger groups of people. So, thank you.
I'll just add one other thing. Dr. Rich and I have had a nice opportunity to speak with you guys on a number of occasions about the presentation. We've done a number of site visits really to help raise awareness. And the reality is that deferred maintenance and some of these items that have come to end of life has really put the board, the community, the administration in a pretty tough spot, in a place where we are going to have to make some tough decisions, whether it is our fault, it is now our responsibility, as Dr. Gordon and I have talked quite a bit about this. I think part of getting the community involved is, as we did that triage exercise, the must do, should do, could do, it's important that the community understand the state of some of our facilities and just how bad some of them are and how much money that requires to do so. And then, so that's more of an awareness discussion with them, maybe even their direct involvement in seeing these spaces and seeing what we're talking about and what we're dealing with. And then to your point, you know, it's critical that we get their feedback on what we should do and could do as well, because all of these things are quite expensive. And as we go down through the various charts, line items, it is becoming increasingly, or I am becoming increasingly more aware of just how much spending we are potentially talking about here. So I think I agree with Mr. Lackner's addition to the charge statement. One of the questions that I had was regarding the intention and the frequency of these discussions. Dr. Gordon, you and I talked about that in one of our planning meetings, so perhaps we might be able to, before we try and garner consensus, what that might look like, so the board can weigh in on the frequency of these discussions, where they would occur, what type of community involvement we're talking about.
So if the board gives me consensus tonight, what it would look like is monthly through March. However, with a caveat of, similar to our cell phone committee, that we add more or we double up on occasions as we're feeling where are we at in the pacing and the process of this work. So it would be just a natural addition if we're sensing that we're running out of time and we need more meetings, so we would continue to do that. The location would be right here in the Professional Learning Center at Lincoln School. The request is that we will be sending out something later this week, if the board gives us consensus, that we are looking for a wide variety of people. Community members who do not have students any longer in our schools, parents, staff, high school students. So we really want a wide net cast and really embracing all those various voices and perspectives in a conversation. So we're excited to be able to start that process. If I may add, I would add in there, I believe, where it would go, and again, a little bit of wordsmithing, and I'm not looking to wordsmith right here at the whole table, but I want to recognize what Mr. Lackner and other board members have also agreed to, that we would add something similar to the community committee will also be provided D303 finances and funding options available to school districts to achieve such a goal as this. If that's in some form or fashion, it would be included right before the last sentence that starts with this. We would add that type of phrasing in there if the board is comfortable with some, and Mike will make it a million times better than what I just did, but I would add that in there.
Quick question, that when you're asking for community input and you're putting out the invitation, this would be community members that have never had kiddos in our school or schools, or that don't have kiddos in our school yet, or just literally anyone within our community, right?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Okay, perfect, thank you.
Can I ask a follow-up to that, though? It's easy for us to communicate to our families that have students attending, right? How have you thought about how you would attract community members that are not part of our email list?
Yeah, so one of the ways that we've done it in the past, similar to our cell phone, putting out an article in our local newspaper. However, we also recognize the Kane County Chronicle is slowly reducing staff members there as well. So we'd probably push it to the Daily Herald. Now, they may not take it because they're a much larger, but that was one of the ways that we had a broad reach across all of our community members. But we also recognize we have a very large platform in which reaches many people. Social media, I don't know if you've heard of this thing called Facebook. There's a lot of people on it, and that is one of the best ways for us to communicate to our families and to others who connect with us. So we have multiple ways of doing it, and we felt really great about the representation, especially in the category of individuals who no longer have students in our district who participated in the cell phone committee. So we do have ways of making sure that we broaden that net, but it's a good question.
We also, we did do the mailing previously, and I'm not suggesting that per se, but we have the access for the entire community.
100%.
That T303 mailing quarterly.
Yep, thank you for that.
Okay. My sense is that we have consensus to move forward at this time. So
Thank you so much.
We'll close that out. Okay, moving to item 7 on the agenda, which is our consent agenda. Can I have a motion to approve consent agenda items 7A through 7Q?
So moved.
Thank you, Mrs. McCabe. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Kuchar. Any discussion or questions at this time? Okay, Ms. Marsan, please take the roll call vote.
Mrs. Hancock?
Yes.
Mr. Kuchar?
Yes.
Mr. Lackner?
Yes.
Mrs. McCabe?
Yes.
Dr. Rich?
Yes.
Mrs. Bell?
Yes.
Mrs. Fairgrieve?
Yes, motion passes 7-0. Now we will move to our for action section. The first item is approval of superintendent goals for the 2025-2026 school year. Can I have a motion to approve the superintendent's goals for the 2025-2026 school year?
So moved.
Thank you, Mrs. Bell. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mrs. Hancock. Any discussion or questions at this time?
I just want to make note of one of the goals with regards to the community engagement, just kind of a asterisk in case of making sure that deadline is a little bit flex should there be issues with him having enough time to get the facilities conversation out. I just wanted to make sure that that's on record, that we're, keeping that in mind if he's saying, you know what, we're really close to getting the finance piece, or whatever feedback he brings, just making sure that we're all in on that as a board, since we didn't give him consensus prior to.
I would just like to say thank you to the board and to Dr. Gordon for the work on these goals. I believe these are very focused on the issues that have concerned all of us, and that it's what the school district, we are unapologetically an educational organization, and I do believe that these are goals that will enhance our students' learning, and under your leadership, we're gonna hit the targets. So thank you.
Okay. Ms. Marsan, would you please take the roll call vote?
Mr. Kuchar?
Yes.
Mr. Lackner?
Yes.
Mrs. McCabe?
Yes.
Dr. Rich?
Yes.
Mrs. Bell?
Yes.
Mrs. Hancock?
Yes.
Mrs. Fairgrieve?
Yes, motion passes 7-0. Moving to item B for action is related to policy 2.80, which is board member oath and conduct. Can I have a motion to maintain the existing policy language related to policy 2.80 and not incorporate the optional sentence concerning removal of a board member by the regional superintendent?
So moved.
Thank you,
Second.
Mrs. McCabe. Is there a second?
Second right here.
Thank you, Mr. Kuchert. Any discussion or questions at this time?
Just to confirm, we'll be voting in the affirmative if we are not wanting to add that statement, correct?
That's correct. You would be voting yes if you are in agreement with the press recommendation, which is no.
Right. I gotta love those double negatives or
Yeah, I know.
positive, negative, positive.
Yeah, all the legalese. Any other questions, comments? Okay. Ms. Marsan, would you please take the roll call vote?
Mr. Lackner?
Yes.
Mrs. McCabe?
Yes.
Dr. Rich?
Yes.
Mrs. Bell?
Yes.
Mrs. Hancock?
Yes.
Mr. Kuchert?
Yes.
Mrs. Fairgreen?
Yes, motion passes 7-0. Moving to item C for action is policy 7.40, non-public school students, including parochial and homeschooled students. Can I have a motion to adopt language that aligns with the district's current practice related to policy 7.40, which permits students residing within district boundaries to participate in non-athletic extracurricular activities? And for clarity of this discussion and the motion, this is the language that we would be adopting. A non-public school student is eligible to participate in non-athletic extracurricular activities at the D303 attendance area or boundary school in which the student resides.
So moved.
Thank you, Mrs. McCabe. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Lackner. At this point, we do have the opportunity for question and discussion, and I think Dr. Christensen is going to kind of kick it off and setting the baseline for us.
Yeah, she's joined us tonight. There has been much confusion about this policy, so what we wanted to do, although there is only one aspect of this policy, the non-athletic extracurricular, is the piece under consideration. What I've asked Dr. Christensen to do is to literally walk through the entire aspect of the policy to create clarity of where are we at, what are we doing, and then re-emphasize at the end what the motion is for the board. Dr. Christensen, can you take us through kind of pulling apart the policy and the different aspects of that policy for the board and quite honestly, most importantly, for our community?
So I'm wondering if you'd like me to read the policy by section?
I think so, just to have that clarity, and then what does that mean? Thank you.
Absolutely. Sure. The first section of the policy is about part-time attendance. The district accepts non-public school students, including parochial and homeschooled students, who live within the district for part-time attendance in the district's regular education program on a space-available basis. Requests for part-time attendance must be submitted to the building principal of the school in the school attendance area where the student resides. All requests for attendance in the following school year must be submitted before May 1st. A student accepted for partial enrollment must comply with all discipline and attendance requirements established by the school. He or she may participate in co-curricular activities associated with the district class in which he or she is enrolled. The parent/guardians of a student accepted for partial enrollment must pay all fees, prorated on the basis of a percentage of full-time fees. Transportation to and or from school is provided on regular bus routes to or from a point on the route nearest or most easily accessible to the non-public school or student's home. This transportation shall be on the same basis as the district provides transportation for its full-time students. Transportation on other established bus routes is the responsibility of the parent/guardians. Currently, we have 20 students in grades K through 12 that are part-time attendance students. The next section of the policy focuses on students with a disability. The district accepts for part-time attendance those children for whom it has been determined that special education services are needed, are enrolled in non-public schools, and otherwise qualify for enrollment in the district. Requests must be submitted by the student's parent/guardian. Special educational services shall be provided to such students as soon as possible after identification, evaluation, and placement procedures provided by state law, but no later than the beginning of the next school semester following the completion of such procedures. Transportation for such students shall be provided only if required in the child's individualized education program on the basis of the child's disabling condition or as a special education program location may require. Moving on to the one that we have been discussing most, extracurricular activities including interscholastic competition. Shall I read what we are recommending, or shall I read the original?
Read what we're recommending, just so we continue with some insane clarity on this.
Absolutely. A non-public school student is eligible to participate in 1, interscholastic competition, provided his or her participation adheres to the regulations established by any association in which the school district maintains a membership, and 2, this is the part we've been discussing, non-athletic extracurricular activities, provided the student participates in activities at the attendance area or boundary school in which the student resides within District 303 boundaries. A non-public student who participates in an extracurricular activity is subject to all policies, regulations, and rules that are applicable to other participants in the activity.
Dr. Christensen, what is a non-athletic extracurricular activity?
It would be any of our clubs, any of our theatrical performances. There are groups that meet outside of the school day that are not a part of a course, but they are an organization that is sponsored by the school.
Does elementary band or orchestra fit within that criteria?
It does not, because elementary band and orchestra is a class that is held within the school day. There is additional beginning in September and ending at the final concert of the year. There are weekly before school rehearsals that are full ensemble rehearsals, whereas the classes throughout the week are primarily towards specific instrumentation.
So that does not fall under non-athletic extracurricular activities?
That is correct. It would fall underneath the partial enrollment.
Perfect. Are there other aspects of the policy that you would like to highlight for clarity's sake? That
Specific
you feel
to the
like,
extracurriculars?
Yeah, anything else that you would like to add there?
I think what I have found is that there are 4 students across the district in middle school and high school, to be honest, that do participate in extracurricular activities that are homeschool students. Many cases, actually all of them currently, are students who are partially enrolled. There's a student who is not currently enrolled at the middle school level that is participating in an athletic team right now, which is not a part of this particular, it's not considered an extracurricular, but does anticipate once the season ends, this fall season ends, to be joining some clubs at the school.
How are we tracking students? How do we know where they're at if they're in a club or any other aspects or provisions within this policy of homeschool students coming to our schools to participate in whatever form or function they may? How do we know who's in our buildings and where are they at the club or whatever that may be?
Absolutely. Any student that participates in any homeschool or private school student / any of our current students as well, anyone that is participating in any of our educational opportunities like a regular school day or outside of the school day must enroll in the school district, and particularly at the school that they are boundaried for or their attendance area school. And so they go through the exact same registration process that all of our other students who are full-time attendees engage in. So that includes sharing copies of educational records from other institutions, copy of birth certificate, immunization records, as well as proof of residency. They are in our system, currently our eSchool system, our student information system. And then if they are partial, then they would have a partial schedule within our student information system. If they're not, then they wouldn't have that, but they communicate with the principal or designee at the school as to what activities they will be participating in.
So board, in summary, what administration is recommending is that we continue current practices that have been going on in the district with the addition of clarity of language within the policy. And I believe that is what has created, under that one section, where we needed greater clarity as to how we were implementing from an administration side of things. However, at the end of the day, what we're recommending is the current process with better language in our policy itself. Mrs. Fairgrieve, any?
Well, and then in addition to that, at least here at the table, everybody should have a clarification document on policy 7.40. And the plan, correct, is to take this and also put it on the D303 website so that community members can refer to it.
Under the registration?
Yeah.
Yes,
Okay, okay.
just for that clarity again.
Two things I wanted to just kind of point out to the public is that when I was talking about this and researching prior to our meeting in September, the committee meeting, I was getting confused in my own head, the difference between elementary band and orchestra and maybe a running club there or a chess club. And it is referred to, it's very specific, and you described it, Dr. Christensen, but it is referred to in policy 6.190, where it actually explains the difference, extracurricular and co-curricular. And co-curricular are the band and orchestra and items that receive the grades. I found that very helpful when I was looking for it. One quick question of clarification, where in the first paragraph of 7.4, it says that all requests need to be in by May 1st, prior to May 1st. But if a community members happen to move in, obviously that would be the same situation as a regular student that moved in after May 1st, right? Okay.
Correct.
I thought so.
We would give them that grace period.
Perfect. I thought so. Thank you.
And I just want to, there was a lot of confusion. I want to thank administration for helping us walk through it, doing the research we needed to do so we could have better clarity as to what we wanted to do and how to do it in the policy.
Any other questions? Okay. So that concludes the discussion and questions. So I would go back to, I believe we have our a motion and a second, correct? Okay, Ms. Marsan, would you please take the roll call vote?
Before we do so, sorry, can you clarify whether this is another double negative or
Yeah.
positive, negative, positive vote that we will be going through here, please?
Yes. So what we're saying is that specifically in policy 7.4, under the extracurricular activities, including interscholastic competition, and specifically bullet number or numeral number 2, on that, we are looking to adopt the language that a non-public school student is eligible to participate in non-athletic extracurricular activities at the D303 attendance area or boundary school in which the student resides. That will be the policy.
Vote in the affirmative if you want that policy.
Yes.
And just to make it doubly clear, there is no attendance requirement.
No.
Correct.
Just going to leave it right there.
Correct. Yeah. Okay. Okay, Ms. Marsan, please take the roll call vote.
Mrs. McCabe?
Yes.
Dr. Rich?
Yes.
Mrs. Bell?
Yes.
Mrs. Hancock?
Yes.
Mr. Kuchert?
Yes.
Mr. Lackner?
Yes.
Mrs. Fairgrieve?
Yes, motion passes 7-0. Moving to the for information section on the agenda, we do have 5 items on the for information in the packet. So our standing D303 financial report, the Mid-Valley financial report, our Freedom of Information Act or FOIA requests, district enrollment, and then the new addition for this month would be the IASB Resolutions Committee report, and we will vote on the resolution potentially at the November 10th meeting. Okay. New business. Do any board members have new business items that they would like to introduce?
I just want to say that in light of some of the public comment that we had this evening and some other discussions that I've had with community members, perhaps it would be wise that the board is given a refresher about how some of the concerning situations are handled and why. I recognize that some of these may be sensitive things that we may need to discuss in a different capacity than in an open session like this, but given the gravity of some of those topics that were hit on tonight, and again, prior conversations, I think it would behoove us as a board to add that as an item for discussion.
Thank you for those comments, Mr. Kuchert. I would agree with that as well. So we will definitely have some type of follow-up in a format to be determined. Okay. Are there any citizen comments at this time? There are none. So can I have a motion to adjourn the October 14th, 2025 school board meeting?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you, Mrs. Hancock, and Mr. Kuchert, the second. Ms. Marsands, please take the roll call vote.
Dr. Rich?
Yes.
Mrs. Bell?
Yes.
Mrs. Hancock?
Yes.
Mr. Kuchert?
Yes.
Mr. Lackner?
Yes.
Mrs. McCabe?
Yes.
Mrs. Fairgrave?
Yes, motion passes 7-0. The meeting is adjourned at 8:06 p.m.